Now that I'm journaling a lot and I'm writing a lot, physically writing a lot, which I hadn't done in ever. I've never journaled or written as much as I do now on paper. I was like, you know what? I've never cared about what pen I use. It's always a hodgepodge, like a hotel pen or this, whatever I have access to. That's what I'm using to write on paper. I was like, this doesn't fit. I want to see what it feels like to write with a nicer pen, or a pen that feels like I put a little bit of thought in it, because I'm using this every day for so much time for such an important activity. Let's put a little bit of love into it and a little bit of care. And I got myself a nice pen. And the funny thing is, the pen itself, although it does feel nice to write with it and it looks nice, in and of itself, it does nothing to my writing, obviously. And like, you already know this. Everybody should know this. It does nothing to the writing. It doesn't make me write better or more or anything. Like, it doesn't have any real utility around the writing part, other than it kind of feels nice to write with that pen. It's a nice pen. But it doesn't improve anything. My skills are not better because of it. It's the sort of thing that we do sometimes, where I want to become a great writer, so I'll buy an expensive pen or some shit like that. Or I want to feel successful, so I'll buy an expensive pen or something. But it wasn't like that. And it isn't helpful in the writing, getting better at writing piece of it. But what I've noticed, and it's still early, but what I've noticed is that it sings more harmoniously with many other elements in my life, right? So if you look at the way I dress, if you look at my laptop bag, if you look at the way I arrange my notebook, my Kindle, my laptop, if you look at the kind of cup that I like to use to drink a coffee from, when I look at that pen at my desk, it sings beautifully along everything else. It makes a more cohesive, more completing picture of the care and beauty that I want to be surrounded with and that I want to infuse into my life. Care, thoughtfulness, right? Cohesion. And there's many areas in my life where I had tremendous carelessness or like wastefulness, where I was just like, you could have like this beautiful desk, an image of a beautiful desk, and then a orange McDonald's pen or something, right? Whatever, like something that just, a note that sticks out because it's not in the same, like, it's not in the same harmonic scale. So it just like, this doesn't make sense. And it speaks to, I don't care about this. I don't care about these things. And for me, it's many areas of life where I chose to be very careless about. And now, step by step, I'm playing with this. I don't know. It's also too early to tell sometimes when I'm making big changes. In the moment, these changes, just by the mere fact that they're changing things, they seem more important and more permanent, more impactful. But a year from now, I will really know if this matters or not to me, or if it's sustained. But right now, it's nice to see.
Yeah. For me, there's like an interesting duality in this, where on the one hand, I get the point with the carelessness. And as you know me, I have a lot of carelessness in my life around these things, right?
Yeah.
I do see the beauty of consciously choosing and caring about how all these things work together. And I see the trap of becoming attached to it, where one needs that. And then when one doesn't have that, everything is dissatisfying,
Yeah.
I think it's like about us, right? So it's like, it's internal, like it's all on the spectrum, and it's totally possible and ideal, right, to be in that space where you care about it without being enslaved to it.
Yeah, which probably is a difficult balancing act that is hard to maintain for long periods of time, which is fine. I find this to be a very important comment, right? You can like construct these things, and then you can make them more than they are, right? Because you give them meaning, you can attach to them, and then you're now enslaved to them. You're not using those items are now there to use you, right? And you're like, have to have all these things, or otherwise you can't exist or function correctly. On the flip side, I think I was doing a version of this with the luxury of carelessness. Like, I was using there are things that I did not pay attention to. There were many, many things I didn't pay attention to. And I was telling myself, I don't pay attention to all these things because I pay attention to so much in life, and
So
this is
much
my
more
luxury.
important things.
And more important and meaningful things.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
is
That was your
my
Ferrari.
luxury, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is something I give myself a gift because
Yeah.
it would burden me to have to deal with this or care about it. And
Yeah.
now we're always coming back to the extremes. If you have 4 items that you really love and that really matter to you, and you carry them with you in life, maybe that oftentimes communicates a better balance in somebody that has nothing that they care about, somebody where every item they have has to be perfect or something. You know what I mean? With carelessness, it's the same thing with me. I don't know if this is true or not, but in the past couple of months, I thought oftentimes there's so many things I never wanted to pay attention to anymore. And then I was also never interested or never willing to pay attention to me and my needs. I wonder if these two are connected, right? Because I would go to cities and people would invite me to restaurants and bars and clubs, and that would show me the greatest places and give me amazing experiences. And I would take all of that for granted and not pay attention. And a week later, you could be like, wow, you visited this amazing city. Was there anything cool? I'll be there next week. And I would not be able to tell you anything. I'd be like, I went to every day to the dopest places, but I don't know. One is like I don't know. I didn't pay attention to the name of these places, how I got there. And that to me was luxury. I'm just like, I'm just showing up here and you people move me around.
Yeah.
Birthdays, names of people. I'm like, I don't remember names. Can't remember everything. Birthdays. I'm not a birthday person. I'm not a celebration person. I'm not a gift person. Can't have it all. I don't gift. Many, many other things. Like I could make a huge list. And I'm not saying that all these things I'm going to become perfect or should be or need to be. I'm just re-examining how much of that is truly a worthwhile luxury or something that I say no to in my life, right? Where I say, this I won't care about. I can't care about everything. So this I'm going to be really bad at, so I can be really, really good at this other thing, right? I have to say no to things to be able to say yes to things. And what are some things where saying yes to this thing is not really saying no to anything else? As an example, I haven't thought this through till the end by now, but if I go to a restaurant and I am invited somewhere and I have an incredible experience, it's not that hard of a work to pay attention to, what is this place called? How did you guys find it? Oh, I will remember. If I'm in this city, this is a beautiful place to come to. Or if there are friends or people I care about that come to this city, I will recommend them to come to this special place. It's not a bank account where it's like, if I remember this name, I'll forget some other thing, right? Memory doesn't quite work that way. And that only elevates the experience. That only makes me more present, more appreciative. It makes it also more permanent. Now there's a place that's familiar to me versus I make every place a blank and I just go and eat great food anywhere and everywhere, and I never cared to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
That to me is sort of like a laziness. I think I've established through this habit of saying there's going to be many areas of my life I'm not paying attention to because I'm not interested, they're not really that important, and I want to invest all my energy to more important things. That, which in and of itself is a solid philosophy to have or approach, as always, and as with everything, overused is abuse. And I overused it to the point where I think I got very lazy with my thinking. Like recently I started thinking, if there's anything to remember, I don't even attempt anymore. I never attempt to really remember a street name, a number, anything. I'm just like, I'm going to type it in my phone, or this other person will remember, or I just never attempt to memorize anything anymore in life. I don't think that's good. This is not good. This is not good training for my brain. Right? This is just being lazy. It's just being a lazy fuck. So there's these little things I play around with. And then funny enough, yesterday I was at the gym here, and on television there was some kind of interview report about in Japan, in Kyoto, I think, there's this actor, this like theater actor, is doing these traditional Japanese, whatever they are, theaters, right? With kind of all the super intense makeup and all that. and crazy grimaces that he was doing in his play and everything. He's like a super famous theater actor, but on top of it, he's also, I don't know what he was, but let's say the crown prince of Japan or something, like a royalty, and a like handsome motherfucker. And so it's one of those like gym TVs where they don't have the sound on, so you just read the subtitles and you don't get the whole story, right? You just get bits and pieces as you look at it. But it appeared as if there was this big deal about this person that's actually like royalty, but fell in love with theater and became like this super famous, expressive theater artist, and but lives this interesting life, blah blah blah, whatever. I don't know why exactly they were, doing this thing about him, but as I was watching him on stage, he had these like bombastic costumes on and this crazy makeup, and he was making these crazy Japanese faces and these grimaces to us, to my European eyes, these over intense facial expressions of emotions during the theater play, which is kind of really cool. Like I never watched anything like that, and I was watching it and I was like in awe. I was like, this is difficult. Like making these like expressing this so intensely, this is tough. Like this guy's good. This is crazy. And then you would see him like cut in a beautiful whatever hotel room with the CNN interviewer, reporter guy, and you would see him just impeccably dressed. If I told you like fucking the Japanese James Bond, boom, you would know who I'm talking about. Like just this beautiful aristocratic gentleman where everything about his posture and his look was perfection, but he also, you sense this deepness in his eyes and his answers, that he is a very wise, very honorable, very smart and humble man, right? That flashed me to a friend of mine that's from Japan, who's also has been on the kind of tech keynote speaker circuit for many, many years. So we're keynote speaker friends. And he had posted on Facebook an old valuable pen of his that was gifted to him by IBM, I think, when he left them many years ago. And he had posted, there was like a translation. So originally he had posted this in Japanese, I think. And the translation was kind of like a little messed up because he wrote something like, "This is my old friend. He was hospitalized. His ink dried, so we had to hospitalize to do blah blah blah." And then a bunch of people in the comments were like, "Lol, the translation, instead of saying like you brought it to a repair, the translation said hospitalized." And then he responded and said, actually the word that I used in Japanese is hospitalized, because in Japan, when we talk about things, we talk about them as we would talk about things that are alive, like personalities. So when we say we bring the laptop to repair, the laptop is sick or something, instead of the laptop is broken. Like a thing, we talk about these things as if they have a life. And I was like, wow, this is those are one of those moments where you're like, oh, Japan has such beautiful wisdom sometimes. That was a moment where that was like, yeah, that's kind of dope. Yeah. That is kind of dope. That does change the way you look at things quite drastically. Yeah. And this is also one of the things that I personally loved in terms of the magic that touches you when you visit Japan. One thing that really touched me experiencing it was this incredible care of things. Like these taxis that were from the 20s or something, from the 40s, but looked like they were just brand new cars. And then all these old tech, new tech, like all these technologies that you could tell, electronic stuff that they built in the 80s, but it was still pristine. Everything was just pristine, beautifully taken care of, aging very gracefully, right? And so there's a beauty there that permeates through the entire culture, and through the like little post that made all the European and American friends go, LOL, hospitalized pen, and then he was schooling all us fools. He was like, yeah, well, motherfuckers, I did write hospitalized. And there is, as I was watching this Japanese theater actor royalty dude, again, it struck me that there's something really beautiful and really human in taking care of yourself and of things, and investing deeply in love in craft, but also seeing that the room I'm in is an extension of myself in some ways, right? I'm not disconnected from the things that are part of my life because I've chosen them. So they're physical manifestations of parts of me.
Yeah. It's a way of honoring yourself and what's around you. Right?
Yeah. The other thing that relates to this is plants. Plants are a thing I have collectively in my entire 38 years on this planet. I've thought about plants maybe for 5 minutes in my life in 3-second increments, right? I never cared about plants. I never paid attention to them. I never bought a plant in my life. I never thought, oh, this room could use a plant. I just never, it was anytime people would ever discuss plants, I would just go somewhere else in my mind, I think. Like I was just never present for any of this. I, heard the stories, and I know intellectually, if you were like, write everything you know about plants, I could write some stuff. Oh, people are happier in houses with plants. Plants, but when you talk to
Good
them,
air quality, yada.
Yeah, and I heard like they can grow more beautiful when you sing to them or talk to them nicely, and they're like, there's things you have to take care of them and everything. I could write half a page of information that I've held on to, but I never really thought about plants at all. Cut to like 2 weeks ago, where I went to a coffee shop and I order my double espresso, like I always do, and I pay. And then there's like this, you walk a couple steps further, and then there's like a little corner where you wait to pick up your thing, right? This is a coffee shop that's in a kind of nice little boutique hotel. So it's not like a full-fledged coffee shop. It's just like a little coffee shop corner of sorts. And so I go to the corner where I wait to pick up my order, and I see a plant. And the plant looks completely like I would have never noticed its existence. It looks wholly unremarkable, except for one thing.
Is that Juan?
Yes, that is Juan, my friend. Except for one thing, which is it had a name tag on it. And it said Juan. And when you looked at the plant, I thought, yeah, that does make sense. This does look like a Juan would look like. And for the first time in my life, and it was not even like a cheesy like name tag or something that was like, oh, it was just like a little piece of paper that had his name on it, right? Or its name on it. And I looked at it, and I was just like instantly smitten by Juan. Like I was instantly just like, Juan, huh? I was just looking at this plant, waiting for my double espresso. And then when I got my double espresso, I was just still stayed there for a couple of seconds because it was like, that is kind of cool. This like instantly gives this aliveness to it now. Like I can't unthink what I thought, which is that you are alive. And you have a character. It's kind of a cool character.
Yeah, it's like a personality.
It has a personality. It's kind of wild. It's just a plant that's chilling there and just cheering you on as you pick up your coffee. It's just like, hey, dude. Like it has that kind of an energy to it.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Not
dude.
very ambitious, but kind of content with what it does. Has its own
his own vibe. And I took a picture when I was there because I thought maybe I need to buy a plant and call it Juan and put it in Germany in my apartment or something. Maybe that would make me happier to have like a roommate called Juan. And then I forgot about it again. Cut to yesterday morning where I wrote to you. There was in a terrible mood. Yesterday morning, I was in as bad of a mood as I've not been in a month. And it was the kind of mood where I thought of ordering a pizza and starting to binge watch a show on Netflix for the entire day. I never had that. I haven't had this impulse in over a month, right? And so I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. Why am I this bad of a mood? And I wasted like about an hour trying to fix it or figure it out. I was like, should I read a little bit? No. Should I journal? No. Should I? It was kind of like hopeless. I was like, what should I do? I don't know what to do. The only thing I knew was I'm not going to order a pizza and watch Netflix right now. This is not going to help me. And then eventually, after an hour, I really didn't know what to do. And I was like, just go out on a walk. Just 10 minutes. If that doesn't help, you'll back to square one, and then you can then figure out what to do. But maybe it helps. Just do it. And I went out, and as I was walking, I wanted to walk on the kind of nature trail. And then I thought, no, maybe it's time to visit Juan again. Maybe I should just go grab a coffee and check out what Juan is up to. That thought alone cheered me up, right? That thought alone was like a blessing. But then I'm walking to the hotel and I'm ordering. And the moment I saw Juan this time, it was not oh, this is interesting. A plant with a thing. I was just like in my head, obviously, not loudly because, you know, that would draw too much attention. And in the US, it might get me into trouble. But as I see Juan, I'm like, Juan, dude, what's up? How are you doing? How are you doing? I'm having a shit morning. And Juan did not speak with a funny voice like in a Pixar movie to me, but it was just its energy. It was just like, could not be bothered. Life is always great for Juan. Juan is always in a good mood. You just chilling. And just that, I was like, can I just drink my coffee here with you? And Juan was like, not a care in the world, of course. And I'm just sitting there and I'm just sipping at my coffee and looking at Juan. Within 3 minutes, my mood had completely changed, right? I was like, dude, you're the fucking best. I'm going to visit you more often. You're the kind of lighthearted energy that I need in my life. And Juan did not care, obviously, right? Juan is always Juan and is always where he is. But he brightened my day. And then I sat down at the lobby and I wrote a little bit. And by the time I came back, I was in such a better mood that I then worked on a bunch of stuff and I went to training and I just had like a really great day, which really turned into my perception of the day as amazing because of the terrible start, right? The place where I started was so negative that getting to a reasonably positive state was ecstatic at the end of the day. I felt incredible. It was a beautiful little like from dark to light. And the shift, as far as I can tell, was a plant called Juan. Call me crazy, but it worked for me. And now I'm like, I guess I have to get a plant. But the problem now is, the problem is I can't, like, if you told me, Steli, it makes you 7% more productive to have a plant on your desk and this is the best next thing you can do, just do it. Don't think about it, just do it. I would have just driven somewhere, picked up the first fucking plant, paid, and I would have spent 2 minutes on this task, right?
Right.
But now I'm like, well, I can't. I want a Juan. I can't buy any fucking thing. Like I don't want some asshole in my apartment or some like stressful plant. I want a.
You can have a Detlef or something like that.
No, not a Detlef, not a Cornelius or something. Like I want a Juan. Like I need to see a plant and go, that's Juan.
Yeah.
But I want him now. Like I want him in my life. Where now I'm like, I'm bought into this idea that I want this. And this is another thing. This is another small thing. Just, in and of itself, not a big deal, but it's this on one layer, it's a playfulness that's re-entering my life that I deeply enjoy, that is infused with this creativity and more openness. But then there's also this, I think, investing in a few things in ways that are bringing energy around me that that infuses me with life. Right? Because when I look at that, when I find Juan and I have it, if now when I go back to Germany to the Airbnb apartment that I'm like temporarily using, when I arrive at that apartment, there's nothing there I'm looking forward to. It's just like a hotel room. I just arrived. It means nothing. I just put my stuff up, my laptop up, my notebook, whatever. I just do my stuff, but there's nothing there. But if I had Juan there, I would get into the apartment and be like, Juan, dude, what's up?
Nice to see you again.
At least for like the first 3 seconds, 5 seconds, I'd be happy to see this plant, right? I do sound a little crazy, but it's fun. It is much funner to be crazy than to be like all sane.
Normal.
Like normal is the worst.
There's enough normal people already in this world.
And it's not that I wasn't insane before. I was just insane in a very serious way, which is the worst way of insanity, is seriousness, right? Overt seriousness. Just a little be more playful with life. But that alone, like a fucking plant, That alone. And Juan,
Mm-hmm.
like you would expect with a Juan, is not an expensive plant. I don't know for sure, but I
Mm-hmm.
know it's not. You can tell it is not an
Right.
expensive plant. It doesn't have
Right.
to be because it's an
Right.
awesome plant. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
expensive. And
Yeah.
so just that, like a little thing, I don't know, probably costs like $20 or something. A $20 plant could make the
Mm-hmm.
difference between me walking into a cold, functional space when I've traveled for a long time and I'm now practically at my second home or my first home, whatever the way you want to look at it, or me entering and going to a thing and feeling like having a smile on my face and feeling a warmth and a familiarity and an arriving and a welcoming, just a little thing like this, right? I mean, I imagine, I don't know, we'll find out. Maybe
Yeah.
Juan dies and then I mourn him and I realize, I can't take care of a Juan right now. And when I travel, somebody else has to do this. I don't know. We'll see. But the idea is highly entertaining. It's amusing me to no end that I'm thinking about Juan. Like that alone is mind blowing to me. That I went to visit him yesterday, and then he did cheer me up. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
this is funny. Like it's just the best right now. Like these little moments. And you know what I love about yesterday, about that little moment is there's on a meta level, there's this recurring feeling I have that I've I need to rein it back a little bit, rein it in a little bit. And that comes with maybe you're over analyzing a little bit. Maybe you've over inner worked a little bit. Maybe you're over criticized. Maybe you're over optimizing. Maybe you're overly changing. A recurring thought where I go, just chill a little bit. You are doing so much fucking work. I've made so many great changes. This was a monumental year that I had in terms of just the amount of inner work that I did, the amount of changes that I've created for myself, just monumental. Like, just chill the fuck out. It's fine. Yesterday, I had to practice not to have to figure out why I was in a bad mood. I didn't fully succeed at it. I had many moments where my mind did go to trying to find a reason, but just to go, hey, it's good to stay with these feelings, and oftentimes when you are present for them, you don't run away from them. They reveal a big or important truth, and then it resolves itself and it benefits your life. That's all beautiful, but it's also fine sometimes to sit there and be like, I am grumpy right now, I can't figure out why, and it doesn't matter. It's fine. I'm alive. To be alive means to also have feelings and moments that are not great. Just that's not important. The why is not over. You can over why things, right? And so if I don't know, that's fine as well. What do I do now? And to some degree, I love that what helped me yesterday the most was not some deep spiritual
Mm-hmm.
meditation. It was
Mm-hmm.
not some fucking journaling. It was not some technique I read in some book about self-help or about enlightened
Mm-hmm.
living. It was just Juan the plant at the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm.
To me,
Yeah.
that's even better than all these other things.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing over the last few weeks, with more presence and more openness, there's been more creativity. And what I find is that creativity for me is really the key to playfulness. It allows me to be okay to be more playful, because I do suffer from seriousness. Like that is, I've had this my entire life, even as a child. I do have a tendency to be too serious, to take myself too seriously, to take my problems, to be too harsh and too serious on every minute of every day of how I live and how I perform and what I do. And constantly, I'm constantly like a judge, the judge and the jury in the case of, did Steli live up to his whole potential this very hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
just, you can't live like this. This is too much. once in a while you need a fucking judge and a jury to be like, fucking your ass is in jail, you're a bitch right now, you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you fucking wake up, or you know, dear consequences are gonna show up. That's fine. You have to be judged at times. Judgment is not bad. It's another thing. Like everything is an extreme. Oh no, non-judgment, as if that's a good thing. Non-judgment is the biggest judgment ever because it judges all judgments, right? But I'm not saying that never, but like when it's every hour of every day, that's too much. Nobody can live functionally. I have a good life that way, and I did drift to that direction for a long time, and I'm sure I'll redrift there. It's a tendency I have, but I very much enjoy the playfulness that pops up here and there in my days right now. And yesterday's visit to Juan was definitely a highlight.
So dope. You know, there's so when you talked about objects that we really care about and we love, I thought about a thing that recently came into my life, and then you talked about plants, and I thought about that same thing again, and then you talked about how your day went like from dark to light, and I thought about the thing again. So I'm just gonna tell you about it now.
Yes.
I bought a present for a good friend of mine. It's like a wooden box, right? And it's fucking beautiful. And I had it at the guy's place who made it, right? I was like, oh, okay, just keep it for me. And it was there a couple of months. And then recently I went there to pick it up. I'm like, this is even more beautiful than I thought. He's gonna fucking love this, right? So I bring it back home and then put it on my desk. And especially when we were talking, oftentimes I would just take it, and there's like this top that you can like slide out, right? And then slide out the top and hold it in my hands. And it's heavy, but it's so smooth that it feels light. Like there's a like a physical paradox in it for me, right? And it's from a tree that was partially submerged in mud for a long time. So there's this transition from dark on the one end to golden and shiny on the other, because where like it went from wet to dry, something about the structure changed, right? And it's like very beautiful. The longer it was on my desk, I'm like, funny, if I hadn't bought this as a present, I would keep this too. I'm fucking
keeping this.
Keeping this as a present.
Well, maybe you bought it for somebody else, but actually it belongs to you, right? It's actually like a present to yourself that you just didn't know, until you knew.
Well, now I know.
Now you know. Well, that's beautiful. That is dope. Yeah, these things, big things have small beginnings. And I think this idea that how you do one thing is how you do everything, again, that's a very totalitarian statement. And part of me is resisting that because there are exceptions, right? You do not do everything the same way, but there's also truth in it, paradoxically, at the same time. And just owning consciously a few things that you care about, and then seeing your life and asking yourself, what is an energy that is missing? What is an energy that could enrich my life? And how do I bring this about? Instead of, when you are in an overly functional society and in an overly productive life, you just look at all items as dispensable, purely utilitarian, right? Like at times I was very wasteful because I was just like, these are all just, to me, to arrive at a place without, the necessary clothing, and then because I don't want to have to predict the weather and I don't want to carry too much around because I travel too much, and then just get what I need in that place there, and then maybe gift it to somebody, or instead of carrying to the next place I'm going. That's insanely wasteful to some degrees, but in some ways that was something that I would enjoy, right? I would be like, this is a luxury that I enrich my life with because I just don't care about caring about things. I just use them when I need them, right? And then I give them away. And that can be fun and that can be good and useful at times, but when you just look at everything around you as just purely utilitarian, there might be like a metaphorical mirror there about how you see your value in life, right? If I'm not of use, then I'm dispensable, then I'm useless.